the Cochabamba water revolt, which happened in this place that is a million miles from anywhere that most people in the north think about, the Cochabamba water revolt grabbed people's attention worldwide. I think it grabbed people's attention because, I mean, this was David and Goliath. This was some of the most humble people in the world standing down the World Bank, a former dictator, and one of the most powerful corporations in the world, Bechtel. And it happened just at a time in which, this was, remember, 4, 5, 6 months, not even, after Seattle. So the globalization debate was very much in the news and still pretty abstract for most people. And here was the story of, you know, what it really means on the ground in a poor country where people's water could be taken away from them by this collection of foreign powers. And I think it had a huge impact in a lot of different ways. First of all, it certainly had an impact on the debate on water privatization. After that, everywhere in the world, people began to challenge water privatization schemes, from Argentina to Atlanta. And I think it demonized the idea that we should just give our water over to foreign corporations. I think it also really helped puncture the reputation of institutions like the World Bank as controlling the economic destinies of countries. And I think it grabbed people around the world in both the head and the heart. I think that was its power. I think intellectually people could understand why this was the neoliberal system and, you know, what it was doing wrong. But I think people were really moved by the fact that workers, mothers, students, you know, really humble people had the courage to go to the streets and say no. They just said no. You know, what part of no don't you understand? We're going to control our water, you're not. Cochabamba water revolt tells us two things that are very important. The first thing that the Cochabamba water revolt tells us is about this huge gap between the theory of the World Bank and the IMF and reality. Right? They live in a world on paper where they think they really know what's going on in the world because they've read a report written by somebody with the same college education that they have. And they apply that theory to a place like Bolivia and expect that it's going to work. And I think the Cochabamba water revolt was an indication of how really big the gap is between this world of theory and the reality of people like the Bolivian people. The other thing it shows us, unfortunately, is about how wide the gap is between how easy people think change is going to be versus how hard it is to actually make it. It's 10 years after the water revolt, and the water company here, Samapa, is still terrible. It's still mismanaged. It's still corrupt. It's still not meeting the needs of the people. It's made progress, that's certain, but it hasn't met the needs of the people. And I think one of the things that's important to understand here is the art of social change has a lot of different pieces to it. Protest, whether it's in the United States or Bolivia or Italy, is vital to opening up the political space where change can happen. And it's very romantic. And the water revolt is a very romantic story. But after the romance passes, you then have to deal with the more mundane realities of actually constructing public enterprises, of crafting public policy, of solving public problems. And it's different people. You know, the people who led the protest didn't, by and large, stick around to do the work of rebuilding the water company. They had other things to do because that was, you know, not their mission in the world. And I don't think we have a healthy enough respect for how hard it is to actually build in nuts and bolts the kinds of things that people want to have. That doesn't mean they can't be built. I think a good public water company can be built, but it's complex. And I think when Bolivia thinks about how to develop its oil and gas, when it thinks about what it should be doing with these lithium reserves underneath the country, it's all the same issue of it's good to have these big dreams. It's good to demand and fight for the political space where dreams can come true, but constructing them is complicated and needs to respect the complexity of that work.